Hey everyone, Scott here to discuss Mr. Woodcock, starring Billy Bob Thornton, Sean William Scott, Susan Sarandon, Amy Poehler, and Ethan Suplee, directed by Craig Gillespie. Now, I have seen this movie before, but it's been since theaters, and I'm going back to this twice. God help me. And why did I go back twice? Well, first time was to observe the movie as it was, because I haven't seen it since theaters back in 2007. And two was because I had to take notes on this stupid thing. So let's see if it's as bad as I remember. Let's get into the movie. As a young boy in high school, John Farley had a hard time in PE class because he was fat, and his teacher, Mr. Jasper Woodcock, played by Billy Bob Thornton, as he treated him and his other students like crap to prepare him for the world. And I know what it's like to have a hard-ass teacher to prepare you for the world. And Woodcock makes John change in line and humiliates the boy, which is a sad opening scene. 13 years later, John, played by Sean William Scott, from American Pie, of course, has a book he is autographing named Letting Go of Your Past, and his assistant Maggie, played by Amy Poehler, tells him something about a carnival that is eating corn on the cob carnival, which sounds corny, kind of amusing. Excuse me. For sure. And to be brutally honest, I hate these characters as they come off very disrespectful and acted like they didn't want to be there. John arrives home and learns his mother is Beverly, and his mother, Beverly, played by Susan Sarandon, is dating none other than Mr. Woodcock, to quote the trailer and the movie itself, as he's being honored for being the best teacher I'm not buying that. While John is being honored for the key to the corn of the cob. And this is a predictable plot I've seen a million times in so many other movies that even Billy Bob knows how he's been in a few of these bad movies. I'm not planning on humiliating him with those movies in particular. John goes running at a pizza place where his former classmate Netterman, played by Ethan Suplee, as he teaches him Woodcock is sleeping with his mother's sleeping with Woodcock. And this movie is poorly made. While this is a director Craig Gillespie's first movie, and he'll improve later on in life, John bumps into his high school crush Tracy, who teaches English class at his former high school, and he asks her out on a date while he tries to talk with Woodcock while in the middle of his gym class, and tries to get Woodcock to say sorry, but unfortunately Woodcock doesn't do sorry. John tells his mother he's not a nice person. While at the grocery store, Woodcock proposes to Beverly in marriage, and he thinks about what he did to him in gym class, and goes to the pizza place where Netterman works at, and asks for help to break them up, and this is getting more and more stupid, in my opinion. John comes back to his own house and throws his pillow on Woodcock, hitting John with a baseball bat in his own house, and he says it's John, while he makes this pathetic excuse in saying he was sneaking around someone's house and show each other off the next day and work out together, and he's running his mouth the whole time, and I thought, dude, just shut up, until he starts on the treadmill and they show each other off on who will stay the longest, which is a stupid and dangerous thing to do. Woodcock goes for a haircut and gets a trim on the back of his head, and going to an elderly place to see his, and by trimming his hair, I'm talking about John in general. And he's going to an elderly place and seeing his father and teaching at a pool class for the elderly. And John gets knocked out and his clothes get wet, and gets a call from Netterman and goes to his ex-wife's house. And he learns he's been in a bad marriage as well. And this movie is very bad, and it is poorly acted. John gets home with Netterman, and John, Woodcock, and Beverly go to the carnival, and he calls Tracy, and they go out on a double date. And John tries to defeat Woodcock from one game to the next until he humiliates him on corn of the cob race. And that scene was desperately not funny at all, as this entire movie is not funny at all. Netterman calls John and has been sitting out at Woodcock's place for 18 hours, and he sees Woodcock is humping a blonde woman who happens to not be Beverly, and they go in the house and see Woodcock humping her once again. And I can't believe this was his first movie, the director I'm talking about, as it is one of his worst. Woodcock is being honored at the Educator of the Year as people say what he did for other people, and gives out the corn on the cob key to John, and he makes a speech about how Woodcock is the biggest a-hole in the world. And I start to check out of this movie at this point, as this is the worst movie of director Craig Gillespie's resume of all time. Maggie comes to the house and gets Tyra Banks on his time, and John apologizes as Beverly goes to the corn on the cob parade, and Maggie forces him to go on the show and thinks about what his mother said about her feelings, and Maggie tries to force him back to the show. Maggie shows her bad side as John quits and goes to Woodcock's office and tries to talk some sense into him. They start wrestling each other, which is really painful to watch, until Woodcock goes to the ambulance for his heart condition and tries to see Beverly, so he shows that he cares, and John accidentally flips him over in the middle of a parade because of a damn pothole. And they visit him in the hospital and says it was just gym class. And credits roll to a couple of scenes in the beginning of the credits. One was John giving Woodcock his book, and he puts it in the fire. And two, John is going to have a little brother named by Woodcock. And Beverly has John wrote another book called Backbone, and I didn't give a shit about this climax, excuse my French, as this is a dumb movie with a very predictable plot, and I don't want to see any more of. Now it's time for my rating. I'll give this movie a 1.0 out of 10. This movie is stupid, as I hate the characters, and this movie is not funny at all, as it was mostly humiliating, and this plot is super predictable, and I've seen this plot millions of times. I can't believe this is director Craig Gillespie's first movie, as hopefully the next one will be better, as this is a dumb movie with a very predictable plot that I did not want to see any more of. I checked out of the movie after an hour into it, that I just didn't want to finish it any further, as I don't want to pull off another Screamers. And if it weren't for that show, I would have turned this movie off. That's how strong this is a non-recommendation, as this may be the worst movie I've seen in the years. Forget Spider-Man 3, okay, because it's the same year. This is the worst movie of 2007. So that's my opinion of this movie. So I'd like to thank you guys for joining me, and next time I will be back with Lars and the Real Girl, hopefully a better movie, because I haven't seen it before. And until then, it was just a gym class. Yeah, right.